You are now listening to Carlie's Couch.
I'm Carlie.
And I'm Lex.
In this podcast, we discuss a wide array of topics about life and how to live your best life.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Hope y'all enjoy.
Today on Carlie's Couch, we're talking body image, how to reclaim your body image and the way you view yourself.
Dun, dun, dun. Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. We are so happy that you are here tuning in with us.
Yeah, thank you for joining in. Thank you for listening. Thank you for leaving reviews and letting us know how you like the episodes. It always feels good to get that feedback. And we're excited to talk to you all today because, of course, at the beginning of every year, people tend to think more about exercise goals and body goals and goals in general, which typically include yourself and how you look. And I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to be happy and excited when you look in the mirror. That's what we should all be striving to do. But sometimes we get to these dangerous spaces where no matter what you see, it's a problem. And then you can kind of get stuck in a rut and all of that. So today we are going to talk about body image.
Yeah, I was thinking about body image because over the course of like a few weeks, I think I had a couple of friends and people that I know all talking about like different things about their body. Like one of them had just went through a breakup and she was talking about how like her partner used to say really negative things. And so she's trying to get back into like loving it for herself. And then I recognized, like we talked about it right before Christmas, that I hadn't been posting as much like on my social media, my fitness social media, because I felt like I wasn't in the best shape. And so it kind of got me just thinking about, body image and where our views of ourselves come from and what are these parameters and how do we actually improve that? Because I think people like, okay, go exercise and you're going to feel good, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to view yourself in a more positive light.
Mm-hmm. And when you say body image, like I what's the right way to use the term? Like I don't have a positive body image of myself. Is that saying like just I don't view my body well, or is body image in general just like how your body looks?
I think the first one. I think it's just like
it's the way you think about it.
Yeah, it's what you think about yourself. But also like you might and I went on a date with this guy back when I lived in Dallas. And he was a football player and like bigger, but he had just lost a lot of weight. He was like in fitness competitions and stuff. And we had went out. It was our second date. And he spent the first 20 minutes talking negatively about all these people's bodies. And so he
like
was
what
like,
people?
Like all the people at the restaurant and the bar. Like he was like, oh.
Which probably just a reflection of him having an issue and being caring about that with himself.
Yeah.
Right?
And so I said that to say like, it's how we view ourselves, but also you might be projecting that onto other people.
And I think a lot of people do project body image onto other people. I remember we talked about bias in one episode, and it is difficult. It can be difficult to see folks who may look a certain way, and your first thoughts are around like, oh, you kind of assume, oh, that's a person who doesn't care about themselves. Or, oh, that's a person who's kind of sloppy. Or when we say, like, a person let themselves go and all that. So I do see how your first thoughts are kind of negative. And, of course, that would be a reflection of, like, if I look in the mirror and I'm like, ugh, like, it's because of those things, right? It kind of can automatically reflect on yourself as laziness and all these other characteristics that may or may not be true. But off top, not even necessarily like judgment that needs to be made. And then two, there's of course so much underneath all of that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. And that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it, because working in fitness and health and wellness, like there is an aesthetic that looks appropriate for that. And that a lot of people say, oh, I don't want to work out with a big personal trainer, a fat personal trainer, like all these things, because they think, to your point, that somebody might be lazy or they might not be living what they preach. And I mean, I've even fallen guilty to that and not felt like I measured up with certain things and like my appearance and how I do that. And so it's like, where do we even get our, like what's appropriate for body image? Like, where does that even come from?
I think body image and what's appropriate is societal norms, which tend to change. However, I will say in general, what we consider healthy and not healthy, everybody will be a little different, right? Because like you can see on conversations online, a person could be a size 5 and they're like, no, you're not you're not small enough for a particular industry or certain things, or you can't do this or that. And then I think there are other levels that are more generally, like if somebody's a size whatever and above, it's like, yeah, they are overweight, or they have a particular body that you would kind of define. And most people, I would say, probably would say that's not a healthy place to be. So I think in general, though, the conversation around it does reflect society, and not all of it is necessarily legit isn't the word I'm looking for, but like not all of it is necessarily like that cut and dry. And I will say though too, and you probably can speak more to it, to change my mind or to help me better understand it. But I 100% would not want to pay somebody to train me if they were overweight. I wouldn't. And to me, that does feel like, what are you telling me if you're not doing your thing? Or you know how we'll talk about, when you look to people for advice or leading you in a certain space, you're looking to follow an example. And so in my mind, I do see how 100% that could be one of the best trainers ever. And I don't know if I'm wrong for being like, yeah, that's probably not the first person I would go to.
Yeah, I think when we say look at fruit, right? So you don't want to look at like Donald Trump for a business person, because all of the failures, like that's the fruit of his business. Maybe for running a presidential campaign, but not for businesses. But what I would say, I would challenge like to look at who they're training and their success, because they could very well, you might be missing out on a blessing because of how someone looks, and it might not fit in your box. I would also challenge to say, for everybody who thinks like, oh, this person, like I have a friend who is stacked. Like mama is built like a brick house, baby, but she don't work out at all. Super eating Jimmy John's and Five Guys and everything every day. Don't work out, but looks like she be in the gym 24/7. You want her to train you, or you want someone who's a little bit heavier, who might have thyroid issues? No, I'm just saying, like, for example, someone who looks like that or who had surgery, because there's a lot of people selling booty bands and things who have had surgery and lying about all the work. So they might look the part, but they don't have no fruit. And so what I would challenge people who have that mindset, it's not wrong because it's yours, and I can't tell you what's wrong for you to believe, but look at who they're training and the success of the people that they're training.
I do agree that that's most important. And I feel like there's 100% some type of something missing if that person is also not able to see the fruits in their own life. But I do agree with you on that point. And 100%, I believe more so the other way around. Like, I would not just trust somebody just because of how they look either. Because a lot of these people are in the gym doing some like stuff that don't even make sense, especially if you've never had like a real trainer before. So definitely being careful across the board to just judge the book by its cover.
Yeah, and I think earlier when I was asking, like, where do we get our perceptions from? Like, the stuff we saw in music videos growing up, the stuff we see on magazines, stuff on America's Next Top Model with Tyra and the girls, because they thought Takara was so big, and she's really not. She's regular size for a woman. And so, like, I think that inherently that seeps into us. And so I think there's a lot of, like, issues if you're not where you want to be. But I don't think a lot of people ever take the time to stop and examine, like, if they're just beating themselves up to beat themselves up, which then funds all of these industries, like the fitness industry, all of these quick detox teas, the fajas, like all the things. It funds, like our unhappiness with ourselves funds so many industries. And so they design society for us to, every single industry ever. That's marketing. They design us, exactly, to not like ourselves. And so I don't think enough people have really sat with themselves to figure out what they want for themselves outside of the confines of what they've been shown and told is appropriate.
Two things. Directly to what you said, I will say that I recognize with myself, like, sure, there are, I don't even really necessarily have goals, but like, I think the more I would work out or do my physical activities, etc., what I recognize is that what I actually get excited about most is my energy and how I feel. And so it actually, whereas maybe you start out and you're like, oh, my pants starting to get tight and this and that. And maybe that pushes me to but like do whatever, right? But it tends to be those other things that I'm like, oh, that's what's actually making me feel better. We talked about the axis with gut and brain. And I think that the activity and your nutrition, all of those things, when you start attacking them and you start mentally feeling better first before you might see like physical results, it kind of opens you up to like, oh, just feeling better. And I think that snowballs into when you're feeling better and you're realizing, okay, just being active, right? Even if you're not like bodybuilding and all that, but just being active, moving your body, doing the things, it just kind of creates a pattern of like a lifestyle that feels good, and feeling good. I just feel better. I don't know. Like I'm just more happy with everything in general. And so, yes, I'll rather, dress up or take more pictures or whatever. Cause same for me. I think maybe 2020 and 2021, there's like 2 years where I have like 2 pictures on Instagram. Like there's that whole era of when I had little finger waves and blind, like there's none of that is even anywhere. And I was looking like, dang, I really went a couple years only putting like 3 things up. And yeah, I remember during that time, I just mostly remember that I felt blah. Like I was kind of a little blah, but I felt real blah, and I just didn't feel good, and I didn't ever feel good no matter what I was really putting on or doing. And so I didn't take that many pictures. But boy, as soon as I started doing gut health and running and all these things in the last couple years, it's like I always want to take pictures and go out because I feel good. Another thing I wanted to say to where we get our norms from now, one thing that I really noticed lately that's really pissing me off is like, no, it really pissed me off when I'm shopping online now. Like, why is everything like they're not even real pictures of people anymore? Yes. Like, it's so Photoshopped with the waist being so small and stupid, and it's like it looks goofy as fuck. Like off top, like it's not even about being small or whatever. It just looks goofy as hell. And the mannequins now, like when you go to Fashion Nova or out in the mall and stuff, yeah, the mannequins are shaped crazy like that, looking don't let me be looking for just anything, swimsuits or whatever. I think that's what it was. I was on Amazon because I was like, let me get a couple quick swimsuits for a trip. And I was like, is anybody here not airbrushed? Like, what does this shit look like for real? Because it's just not even real. And it's pissing me off how, like, guys, we got to get more in tune with reality. Like, real bodies, like, we're not even talking about being overweight and extra skinny, but, like, real bodies are just, they're not doing this. Like, it's just not really what it is. And so, to me, that's what's really weird. Seeing the shape that people want to be, and that literally in real life looks so fucking ridiculous, and like everybody will say that, and still it's still a thing. Mm-hmm. And so we have to fight that too, this space where it's like, I know that looks goofy, and I want a little hourglass, but like there's a real hourglass that just does a little slight, and then there's this goofy stuff, and like being okay with like what's real. Because that's what most people actually are looking at. And even though it looks like people are paying more attention and looking at that, it's like they give that attention while also talking down on it. It's really weird. And that's also a whole nother God thing about shit that don't add up and make sense. But it's very easy to see how people can just be like, I don't look like this.
Yeah, I think you had so many great points in that, but the first one is I really appreciate. I was looking at something on Walmart the other day, and they have where you can pick your model.
Yeah, that's real.
And like in the body type, there's apples, there's pears. They could probably got peaches on. They got all kind of body types, and I was like, wow, I appreciate, because now I see how something actually might hang on me. Like, I'm athletic. I need to see it because I'm not shaped like that. I
like that too, and I'll notice there's certain sites where the people all look crazy and fake, and then there's certain sites where it's very real. Even if the people are small, it's like you see how the clothes actually look, and it's like, okay, that's gonna go straight up and down, like, because that's what it is, and I can better picture what's going on. But the other stuff is so phony that it's like you can't even really get an idea of like what's this really gonna look like.
And it's this false sense of reality. And I think to what we were talking about, like industries are built on marketing to us that we are not enough. And so you have this image in your head of what you're supposed to look like. Like Lala and I were talking, and we have personal training clients or people who come to classes who want to look fake. And I'm like, you can if you get surgery, but that might not be your body type. And there's nothing wrong with your body type. Like, you just got to learn to love it. And I think so seeing real bodies is important. I think the more you do to take care of yourself and feel good in yourself, like if you're taking care of yourself and you know the difference, then it's easier to feel good about who you are and where you are and how you look and how your clothes fit, as long as you know you taking care of yourself. I saw an interesting post, and I want to get your thoughts on it. And it was saying, for everybody who grew up with a naked mom, or a mom that was naked often in the household, like around them, or they saw their mom's naked body, that they tend to have a more realistic view of what women's bodies look like, and are more comfortable with like nudity and not feeling bad if their bodies don't look like per society standards. Thoughts?
I don't know. My mom was dressed. I just remember one time when I accidentally walked in. I was like, whoa. But also, I grew up. My mother has been overweight for most of my life. She was very, very small. When I look at all her like older pictures and all that, she was very, very small. And I think part of that, she also got married at 18. She had us at like 21. By my age now, if I was my mom, I would have had a kid in college and 2 kids in high school. So I think also lifestyle wise and having kids and all that, hormones and all of those, as all my life, my mom has been overweight. So I don't know. I don't think that has necessarily shaped how I feel I should look. I've never been like, I want to be like that. I've never been like, I don't want to be like that. For me, I don't think I see any register necessarily.
Yeah, my mom was naked, and it's so funny because I'm a naked person. Like, my best friend called me on FaceTime, and her like fiance was there. She's like, "You need to leave. She might be naked." And he was like, "What? Why would she be naked?" And she's like, "Just go." Definitely did not have a shirt on, because that's just like how I used to.
Yeah, I like having clothes on.
I like being naked, but I think that it did help me to see real bodies, and my mom was very intentional about me not getting an eating disorder, because Karen Carpenter, y'all might know who she is, a singer. She had a really big eating disorder. It was a really big deal in like the 70s. She almost died from anorexia. And my godmom was very heavy set. And I mean like borderline morbidly obese, very, very large. And my mom said one time she was babysitting me, she came over to get me, and I was on her exercise bike as like a child. And she was like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I don't want to get big. Like,
yeah, let me start now.
Big mama." And my mama was like, "Whoa." So she made me watch this documentary.
Dang.
Like, it was a whole, but
I ain't gonna hold y'all. I'd have been like, let's practice moving, because.
But that's the thing, right? So it's like I
you
did,
teach
and I
not
have
to judge and make sure
to take care of yourself,
because it's a lot of big kids out here, and I'd be very sad seeing a lot of these big kids on their iPad eating
absolutely.
cupcakes.
Yeah, because there's no movement, and I work with kids, and so there's this different culture. Like, I coached volleyball for 3 years for middle school a couple years ago. They didn't want to jog at all. They didn't want to run, and when I was little, that wasn't a thing. It wasn't a question. You got your butt out there and you ran. And so now I'm like, oh, it's just an interesting like juxtaposition of how we grew up versus them. But all of that to say, like, I think what you expose people to, what you are exposed to, really does affect you. Like, and so if you take some time and sit with it, it really does impact your views. I think making sure that you're doing everything you can to take care of yourself. That's really how I've improved my body image, because I did have some unrealistic views. People have said negative things about my body, like past partners, or like hurtful things, especially growing up, because people are mad mean. And healing that is really just me doing the best that I can to take care of myself.
I'll say the most like affecting body image type thing that I can think about, like in my own life, is just when you look back at when you was tight. that's what be getting you, because it's like, it's possible. You're like, dang, I was tight. Even like I said, like around 2020 and all that. I think I honestly, again, for me, I can only speak for myself, but for me, nutrition is the number one thing that makes everything else tighten up and go easier. And so I think around like the 2020 to 2022, that was just so off. And I was in a relationship, so we were inside the house all day. We was eating wings at the air fryer all day, drinking 10 bottles of wine a day. Like, it was pretty bad. Like, that's probably not moving, all of those things. But man, I had gotten real, real tight in 2018 because I was working with, shout out Ryan Kelly, who them workouts was crazy. And it was like, we was good. And so it's like to look back and be like, I know it's possible, and I know what's possible, and I know literally at any given point, I know if I get in the gym, because I know my body, if I get in the gym for a couple weeks, I'm gonna be straight. Like, I'm gonna bounce back. And that being said, in the last couple of years, I realized, oh no, now this thing that people always kept telling me, when you get to 30, you gonna see. And I was like, all right. So for me, it was like 37, but still, like, dang, it did happen where it's like, oh, even if I'm running, working out, or whatever, you stop for 3 weeks, and stuff started changing a little bit. So I was like, oh, I got to be very consistent with things. So that's what becomes the lesson now, is like, okay, what's the consistency of what you're doing? But again, it's the doing something and the process and the consistency that makes me feel good, and that I'm good. Like, as long as I'm feeling good about what I'm doing, I'm good. It's not necessarily the exact like numbers of the pounds or the whatever.
And it can't be, because it never works out like that. Sorry, y'all. I'm a trainer. I work with people all the time. The numbers are not even you're doing your best. Even people who train for fitness competitions. And actually at my skinniest, I was my saddest. I was very depressed. I was like so sad. Actually, at my biggest and my skinniest. To be fair, at my biggest and my skinniest.
Because it's other things.
Yeah, it's other. But that's what I'm saying. It's not so. All I'm saying is, when you're trying to work on your body image, you're really trying to work and love yourself in a world that really doesn't want you to. The best thing you can do is show up for yourself and fall in love with the process, fall in love with taking care of yourself and not being as attached to it has to look a certain way, or I'll be happy with myself when I am a size 4. Because you're going to get there and still not be happy. There's body dysmorphia that comes up when people start losing drastic weight and all this. You have to learn to be happy with who you are right now and fall in love with the process of taking the best care you can of yourself.
And something I feel like I heard out of what you just said is very important, that if you're not happy with yourself as is, you're not necessarily going to be happy with yourself when anything changes, especially if it's just physical change, which is why, again, for the 500th time, I keep repeating my same old thing about the way that mood change when the health is together, and the gut health especially, and the hormones and all that stuff, and like you just don't feel weird and cloudy and all those things, is a big key. So wherever you're at, it's still something you got to attack as far as like your thought process and your mindset towards yourself. To kind of start wrapping this episode up, Carlie, what are your tips, ideas for how people can do that? Like wherever they are right now, how they can start to learn and practice being okay with themselves.
Yeah, you have to take care of yourself. I'll never skirt off on that. Like, I'm a trainer for a reason. And it has a coping mechanism that has saved my life mental health wise 1,000,000 times over. Like, it's my best investment I've ever made. Is taking care of myself.
For a minute, I was spending the most money on trainer, tennis, running code, all these things. But I was loving it. I was like, oh, this is actually what I need.
It is the game changer.
Yeah.
If you're going to do anything, move your body. Like, literally find something you enjoy doing. It doesn't have to look like me or Lexi's or anybody else's, but try shit. Find what you like.
And you don't know till you do it.
Do it.
Like, you just have to start.
I want to try tennis. Go try it. Go try it. If you want to, like, oh man, I want to get back to running, go start walking. There is a couch to 5K plan that is very achievable for anybody who has never ran a day in their life. If you have the funds, you can go get a DEXA scan, which is a full body scan to give you your entire composition. And instead of making goals like, oh, I want to be 130 pounds, look at your body fat. Try to lose body fat percentage. Try to get unpre-diabetic. Like, I had 2 clients last year lose 40 pounds. Neither one of them are diabetic or pre-diabetic anymore. Showing up every day. Like, so start where you are. Watch how you talk about your body. I think that's a big one we haven't talked about. Just stop saying things like, oh, I'm too fat for that. Oh, I can't stand the way I look. Stop saying that, because your body hears you. And I know that sounds crazy, but it really does. And so if you don't have anything nice to say, just don't say anything. And then start to work towards a more positive self-image of yourself. Or like, man, I'm so proud I walked every day this week for 10 minutes. Go me. And then you can start to build up momentum. It doesn't have to change overnight. It will not change overnight. It might take several years. But the more you show up for yourself, the easier it is to be kind to yourself, to be more compassionate. You just have to be consistent.
Yeah, and all of that is also a practice, because I definitely, at times, I don't think I talk negatively, like doing things or out and about. But of course, it's this, in the morning when you're just looking in the mirror, like, all right, like you're gonna have a few things, but I try to catch that, change it, or I was like, damn, like I look good or whatever. And noting certain things like, oh, I need to be aware, like, oh, this is getting a little tight, or this is getting a little loose, or whatever it is. And just paying attention to it and letting that fuel my decisions when I'm next thinking about what's my next meal or whatever. And it's like, well, let me just take a better option. Or when it's like, if I'm sitting on the sofa and it's like, I know it's about to get dark in 30 minutes. Well, I could do a 15-minute walk real quick, because then I can watch TV while it's dark outside. And so it's also just like making a commitment to who you are and who you want to be, and making decisions as that person. Like, healthy Lex, like, cooks her meals. So I think about that before I'm like deciding to order or to do whatever, or before you make any decisions. And so that's really a thing for me too, is in my mind, I know who is this person, and now I have to do what that person does. And not beat myself up if you stray here and there either, but in general, just making more better decisions is going to be helpful.
Yeah, and it's not all physical. Like, that's important in eating, but also the mental, like going to therapy, talking to your friends, showing up for people that you love, like financially, like, well, you know, all the things you can do to make yourself feel better. And it just turns into momentum.
And another random thing too, I'll say is, because for people who may not just walk around being like, I'm so this, I'm so that, one thing that we can be doing and catch ourselves doing is when people do tell you like, oh girl, you look good, or that's a nice outfit, or whatever. And the first thing you do is be like, yeah, it done got a little tight here, or, you know, and you got to say something like, I know I need to get out and do something. It's like, girl, just be like, thank you. I'm thank you for seeing that I look good, because I feel kind of good right now. Like, just catch yourself. Pay attention, because sometimes you may not even realize if you do have any body image issues. And so that's a way to even find and think about if you do, like noticing how you're talking to yourself and how you're responding to things.
Because you're worthy of love and compliments and success and all those good things as you are right now. Start with that. Like, do all of that internal work so you can feel good now. Because whatever body size, whatever body image, that it's just going to be the same whenever you get there. So start to work on that mental and that spiritual too. We'll see y'all next week.
Bye-bye.